Right.
All right. Welcome to another Sunday with Greater Than Youth Ministry. I'm the youth pastor of Greater Than Youth Ministry, Deshon Powell of the International Christian Center. And today I've got a number of friends and family that are with me to help talk about some of the things that are taking place within our society and to really kind of go into how that impacts you as youth, young adults, and also even adults if you're tuning into this broadcast. And so they're going to help give me some perspective from their point of view, from the world that they live in and within their bubbles. And hopefully, through this discussion, what we can accomplish is to give you some tangible action items, some tangible things that you can take and apply to your life that'll help you get through the weeks, the months, and the years going forward, especially in this time that we're in. And so I'm going to go ahead and introduce to everybody that's here, and I'm going to start over here with my good friend Chris Gray. And his wife Shayna Gray, my little sister. I'm qualifying her, right? My little sister Marley Oliveira, our youth leaders and newlyweds, Bianca. I gotta say this: Bianca Robertson and Micah Robertson, and then my wife, of course, Olorian Powell, and then I've already introduced myself. And so to kind of kick this discussion off, and hopefully this will be beneficial to you. What I want to kind of focus in on is, yes, we know we have things such as Jacob Blake, who was shot in Wisconsin, Kenosha, Wisconsin. Yes, we have George Floyd just across the way in Minnesota. And then we got Breonna Taylor in Kentucky. So those are all issues that are at the forefront of the news media and things of that nature. Then you've got COVID, right? And you've got the protests, and you got the presidential elections, and now politics is playing out on the screen. And this is probably the worst time for politics to be playing out on the screen. So you've got all of that going on, but then before you had all of that, you had life. Life in general is tough enough, but then you add all of these additional layers on top of it, and it increases the complication of what it is that you have to try to now manage. And especially to my youth who are in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, to my youth who are in 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, and especially my seniors who are going to be graduating, as you're watching what's taking place in the world, it's probably hard to get the honesty that you're looking for, to find the hope that you're looking for the society that you're being prepared to enter. And so kind of what I want to do is get some perspective from those who are here, who can give you hopefully some encouragement and their points of view. And one of the first things that I want to tackle has to do with authenticity, right? Because we as Christians sometimes are not as authentic as we need to be with those who are looking upon us, to be able to share with them some of the struggles that we deal with in order to traverse these times. I know there's a lot of parents who are probably struggling with what to tell their children in the midst of all of this, because we're in times where it's not been experienced in our era. And so, with regards to let's just say the impact that this, let's just start with COVID and how it's impacted you, the isolation and the inability to be able to touch. How has that affected you emotionally, spiritually, also, just your relationships, and then not only your relationships outwardly, but also, within the home? And let me kick it to somebody. Boom. Picking on you.
Um, so with this whole pandemic happening, it's been kind of rough because I am an educator. I'm a teacher, and not only am I thinking about my family, I'm thinking about my students. I'm thinking about their families and how they're being impacted by their whole way of life or their normal routine being disrupted. For a lot of my students, their safe haven is the school environment, and so having that stripped away suddenly puts a lot of stress on their families, and it's a constant worry, because you can't see these students day to day to kind of gauge how they're doing, and so it has been kind of tough.
Okay. Anybody else want to jump in? I started with her, but y'all can jump in. Anybody?
can jump in.
Go ahead.
For us, we just had our baby girl in February. And so we were looking forward to spending time with family and friends and being able to show her around and to travel. That's been one of our dreams, is to travel with baby, and we haven't been able to do that. So that was pretty hard. Obviously, on the flip side, it's good to have that time to bond with her and to be in the house, and I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything because everyone's at home. So there's that. That's the good side. But I've noticed a lot of my friends who are extroverts, it's taken an emotional toll, not being able to have that social life and not being able to, go out and thrive and do activities that we like to do. That's been hard. And then it's also like a sense of paranoia too. Because it's so new, just understanding the virus and how it's transmitted and what to do to treat it, all of a sudden, and then when you turn on the news, it became this thing where it was no longer like the weather. They wouldn't talk about the weather anymore. It's just like coronavirus every day. And you're just like, is it in the air? I used to go outside and think, should I wear a mask when I'm walking my dog? And so it was a sense of paranoia, and with the baby, you already feel like, I want to protect her from the world, and then you have this virus on top of it, and it's like, is it safe to go to the store? What kind of precautions should we take? So mentally, it was boggling. I think now we've kind of gotten a groove on just staying in the house, online shopping and things like that, so I've found a way to feel a bit more comfortable, but the tough part is not knowing how it's going to end. You don't really have an end in sight. You don't know if vaccination is the cure. Just learning how to live with it is, the thing. Obviously, we have to, but if it's going to die down like SARS, or if it's just going to be, as potent as the flu, is this thing going to mutate and whatnot? And what are we going to do about community? I feel like as humans, we all thrive and need community.
Yeah.
Even with churches, we're not able to gather like we used to. So that's been an emotional toll on my family.
Anybody else? Jump in. No?
Okay, I'll jump in. So we actually, in the midst of the pandemic, we got engaged in February, and then March hit, and then it was definitely very hard at first because we weren't really sure what would happen and if our date would get affected, because our date was set for August, and when June came around and they just started opening up things and the venues opened up, we felt a little better, but still, anything could happen, everything could close down that quick, without us knowing. So we were fortunate to still have our wedding in August. It was very different, just because we had to follow a lot of precautions, and we just have to make sure that our guests were safe as well. So, the guests did have to wear masks and everything. But it's still, mentally, I think we were still sort of affected. We were happy that we were able to be married, and our family, most of our family and friends were able to be there. Not everyone we wanted to be there could be there because they had other things going on, or because they had health issues and they didn't want to maybe get affected. But the day went really fast, and we tried to enjoy it as much as possible. But I feel like for what it was worth, we still had a good time. We just wish we could have done a little bit more and just had a little bit more time. Spiritually, we've been praying about the pandemic just because, God is in control, and we really don't know what the virus is, and the way that it spreads so fast. I mean, our numbers are over 100,000 already in just 6 short months. So I definitely believe we've done better than some other states, but still, the virus is still out there, and we're just trying to live in it. And then physically, we've definitely been separated from our friends and family. I haven't seen some of my friends in months. I mean, my wedding was a time where I could see everyone, but still before that, I don't think I've seen them almost at all. So it definitely did take a toll on us, and we're just, like everyone else said, we're just still trying to live in it. because we don't know what's going to happen in the next few months, or what the cure is, or
Interesting. What you got for me?
I think Shayna said it all on our end. I was looking forward to some movies coming out in the theaters.
That's real talk, though, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Like, I think Batman had a reboot or something. I think it was scheduled for next year, but still, I'm just like, man, where are they gonna get the extras?
The extras.
I mean, I'm a recording artist, so you got to watch the entertainment industry as a whole just shut down. It's just it's an unpredictable time. So any of that long-term planning that is really a thing in America, particularly, is in the process of being reinvented, and it's uncomfortable. But it's not all been bad. I think it's given some time for self-reflection. It's given some time to kind of like work through what's important versus what's convenience. And I think it's been it's interesting because 2020 by and large has just been it's been trash. it's been really, really harsh, a really harsh year for society. But there's been some treasure too. So I tend to lean to a more optimistic approach. Some of my friends who I haven't talked to are friends that I usually don't talk to anyway. And we've just been more we've had to be more intentional about how we use our time, and just learn how to value things. The church doesn't look like it ever has before. I think that's a good thing because it's caused the body of Christ to have to reassess what's important. So yeah, but I mean, I think Shannon covered most of what we've been going through.
That's good.
In our personal lives.
You want to jump in?
Well, I think from our standpoint, we have been affected on so many different areas. When it first started happening, I'm already someone that's pretty much a germaphobe. So it was cold season coming in, February time frame, and when the numbers started hitting in, my mom, with her being a little bit older, and you're looking at where I may have been going home or something. Now I'm trying to protect her to make sure that I'm not doing that. Work, I know I was thinking about it from the standpoint of, are they gonna let us work from home? If they don't, how am I gonna handle this? Because I can't be here with all these germs and all this COVID going on. What are we gonna do? So right at that time, they had all of us come home. So that's a new experience from the standpoint of your entire company being at home. And are the systems going to work? Are we going to be able to connect? How are you going to know if people are working? What are you going to do? So thankfully, we were successfully able to all come home and work and connect. And we're continuing to do that now. We had a senior this year. Aaron was a senior, and what is his senior year going to look at now? He runs track. And now the track season is done. And we have a summer track team. What is that going to look like? We go to the Junior Olympics every year, and all of that gone. And so from an athletic standpoint, we didn't have some of the programs that we normally do. Summer is a busy travel season for us, and so now we're at home. At one time, we had 3 of the kids at home with us. And so now everybody's at home, and with teenagers and things like that, they're used to being on the go and being able to do all kinds of different things, and you're trying to explain to them, you have to stay home, you can't do this, put on your mask, what about this, what about that? Groceries, because they eat around the clock, and they're up gaming, and I'm hearing the microwave at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning because they're going down having their third, fourth meal, you know. So it's you have to adjust. We're all in the house now, and we're all up under each other's feet, and just trying to adjust to everybody being home at one time. Deshon is also working from home, so office space, and you're on a call, I'm on a call, and you're echoing, and you know you're having these different calls, and even on the calls that I've had from work, it's a completely different dynamic because everybody's working from home. Dogs are in the background, kids are talking, and you know coming in and interrupting and everything. But the good thing that I can say is that everyone has adjusted well, because for the most part we act like we don't even hear it. You know, you just keep kind of going. We were on a call, and one of the associates on the call said that his son came and crawled in his lap on a video call while he was doing it. He said, we just rolled with it, you know. He sat there and he just kind of looked in the camera, and I just kept talking and doing my job, and everything, you know, just went on. So it's been a lot of different adjustments for us. But I think everybody's been adjusting well. You mentioned the church, and I think about how many services are now online, and having to learn to do that differently. And now with youth ministry, you're now having to teach, and there's no one in front of you. And with youth, now that we're on, when you have to physically come to church and the parents are coming, you're going to be there. Now you're at home in your sleep. You've been up all night. 10:30 just was not happening for them. They were not getting up. We're out there, and it's like, oh my goodness, it didn't look like anybody was on the live stream today or what have you. And so we moved it a little bit later, and we're starting to see our numbers increase, and that the kids are starting to connect again. But a lot of just that connection with kids, as you were saying, Marley, is that they like that in-person interaction, hands-on, let's talk, let's do different things, and we're definitely having to do that very differently. This here, one of the things that you had talked about when we were talking about fireside chats and group panels and things like that, well now when you're thinking about who's going to be on, and it's like, have you been quarantining? Who have you been around? Okay, you're cool, you can come and be a part of the group, and what are you doing? And because again, no one wants to get anybody else sick. And you're looking at society where you have people on both sides of the fence. You have some of us that says, I'm going to do whatever I can do to make sure that I don't get sick and I don't get you sick. And then you have other people who says it's just a hoax and they're not wearing masks, and you have to deal with that side of it as well. And when you look at the numbers and you don't know what to believe because they change, they're going up, then they're going down. We're having people in the hospital, then oh no, all those people that said that they were in there for COVID or have passed away from COVID, those aren't the real numbers. Those were multiple scenarios. You don't know what to believe, so it's scaring people, and people are staying in, or people are being totally lax, and you're finding out later that those groups of people are getting COVID. And when you're looking at the news, while they say things are getting better, our numbers aren't getting that much better. You're still seeing deaths, so when will we get out of this? Are we going to be like this forever? Schools, a lot of kids are virtual now. I thought, thank God our kids were at the point of where we did not have to homeschool or do virtual school, because they're on the upper end of that. But just listening to the comments of parents now having to figure out what they're learning, keeping kids on task, making sure they're doing the things that they're supposed to do, and there's a new respect for teachers, and just all the work and everything that they put into it.
And parents.
So we're starting to
teachers.
absolutely, So it's like
Parents don't like their kids.
this is not fair. The teachers sent these kids home to me. What am I supposed
Some
to
of
do
the
with
work
them?
is hard. I'm just like, yo, what y'all learning in here? Just exposing me. You know what I mean?
What does this mean?
Yeah.
Where's the book?
It's brand new, so we're all learning. I think it's definitely causing us to be more cautious, like you said, be more intentional. So even though it's been rough and it's a bad thing, it has had some good things that have come out of it.
I'm gonna give it to Mike and let him get an opportunity to chime in here.
I mean,
Before
as far as this whole virus thing, I don't really have a lot to say about it. Like, it's shown me, my life hasn't changed much because I'm a homebody, so I'm at home. Everybody at home, I'm cool. I'm not.
You're like, welcome to my world.
and there is that dynamic. There are a
Yeah.
bunch of homebodies who's like, I don't see what the problem is.
Also,
Yeah.
it showed me how faithful God is, to be honest, because she talked about the wedding.
Mhm.
It looked like it wasn't going to happen, and then we're back on, and then he's telling us how many restrictions there are, and I'm a dancer, so you think of a wedding after the I do and everything, you have a party. So I'm like, oh, but you can't dance. I'm like, might as well not have a wedding now. But
Right.
it all just worked out. Like, the day it went fast and it was cool, but it was like when you're there, you kind of forget like all this is happening. Kind of gets you out of it, gets you happy. You don't have to think about somebody over there is dying or something. And
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just I've seen the faithfulness of God through all this.
And I'm glad you said that because my next question was going to be, what is this whole situation with COVID taught you? Like, what have been the silver linings, if you will, the positives that you put? Because the negatives are easy, right?
Mhm.
But what have been the positive that you've been able to extract from this entire situation that's transpired? And then I got a ton of other questions that I want to ask, but I do want to get that. If you had to say one positive thing that I extracted from this whole COVID situation, it would be what?
To be anxious for nothing. Sincerely, like there's you can't control this one. You can't. There's no speech you can give to comfort everyone, and there's no challenge that you can give. There's no plan that you can put in place. There's no this is just one of those things that you're gonna have to give the control to somebody else. The medical industry is baffled. The government is confused. Businesses small and large, that across the world, even like communities, things that have taken decades, centuries to build, is just in a heartbeat. It's over. It's a reminder that no matter what amount of time we put into our own agendas, that something can happen naturally to just cause it to fail. And then it makes you wonder, well, like, who controls nature then? Not you. You know what I mean? Not you. So, we still on?
Sound like something close, yeah.
Yeah, we good.
Oh, okay. Is the camera still working?
I heard it.
It came back.
Okay,
It
cool.
opened back up.
It opened. That's what I heard.
I don't know if I should finish. I mean, that was pretty much it, though.
Was that pretty much it?
Yeah. We don't have any control.
Professional.
That would be on me because I probably set the wrong setting on the camera.
Everything works.
we're back. Sorry about that, folks. Technical difficulties, but we'll be all right. We'll keep it going. What were you going to say, Shayna?
I was going to say cleanliness. I don't think I realized how
Dirty we are.
unsanitary, yes, that stores, restaurants, airlines specifically, the air not being filtered, the recycled air, all of that. Now I'm exposed to a whole nother realm of that stuff. So now it has me taking extra precautions, and thinking about things a lot differently. I don't know. I've seen the most excessive things, and then I like to find a nice median. Like, people were sterilizing packages that are coming in the mail. I don't think we did that, but definitely wipe down counters if they touched it and things like that.
We started off pretty hardcore.
You sterilize
I'ma spray the
every
doorknobs
doorknob,
every time I go out in the house. Like,
we
I'm
would
cool
go
with my
out.
germs.
Yeah. Take your clothes off as soon as you get in the house and wash them
Come
and
on.
everything.
Yeah.
Just a different perspective on that, and how you talk to people. A lot of people are close speakers, and it didn't bother me for a while, and now I'm like
I need you
6
to.
feet. Keep your distance.
We can have this conversation right here.
You know, you think about aerosols, people spraying you when they speak. So I look at that differently, but
Oh, what? People are spraying you when they speak?
yeah, the aerosols.
Oh, I
I
thought you
didn't
meant
think
like
about
with
that.
Yeah.
disinfectant.
No.
Excuse me.
How are you
No.
doing today? Oh, while they talk? Oh, nice. Okay, great.
That and spiritually, like you said, just not being in control. Like, this was definitely an eye opener, because normally you're like, oh, you know, if I catch the flu or if I get sick, I'll go to the doctor and we'll work it out. Now the doctors are like, I don't know. I don't know what to do. Just stay home. Don't come in unless you can't breathe. Then come in. But then you learn that's a little too late once you finally get in there, right? So now you're like, you just have to pray and rely on God.
Cool.
I think the positives that have come since this whole pandemic took place was the elimination of distractions. And I'm a homebody like Micah as well. Like, that's just my nature. I can stay home. But I realized that I was staying home so much because I was busy. But even though I was busy, it wasn't purposeful. So because of I have eliminated these distractions, I birthed like new creativity, and it has allowed me to do a lot more inward work and to see the things or the holes that I still need to work on, and so that has been the positive of it.
That's good.
Similar to you as well. I definitely see the positive as just me being able to spend more intimate, like, quiet time with God, and just, stay in the Word, and just sort of invest in myself and just create something out of this. Like, I already have personal goals to, like, just create like a blog or just something to just put out there, something positive, and I was able to do that with all this extra time, and then just spend time with family, and just work on my relationships. So I definitely say just that quiet, intimate time is so important, because everything was closed, so you were just home. So yeah.
Micah, you kind of touched on it, but go ahead. You got something?
I like what she said, but kind of made me think about spending time with yourself. Because the way I feel is like a lot of people don't really spend time with themselves. They're so busy doing whatever, whether it's intentional or not. They don't like really know themselves, and this has forced them to figure out what I like, how I, go through life, instead of I wake up, got something to do, and I'm busy in my head. You're thinking. You're like, okay, I gotta do this. I gotta strengthen my whatever aggression or whatever. So I know that's made me spend time with myself and think about how I deal with her now, how I deal with everybody else. Because, like I said, being a homebody, I don't really have to deal with people. Now I have to deal with people. Like, they're at home, I'm like, you need to get on my face, but you can't say that. But
getting on my nerves. Find another room in the house, please.
But just the positive is getting to know yourself.
I would say that a couple of things. One is the downtime. We run constantly each season, just not stopping from the time we get up in the morning all the way through the time we lay our head down, which is like 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes. So that's just how our days go.
Sorry,
So
I kept
it was-
Deshon up late last night.
So it's good just to be like,
It's his
man,
fault.
I can sit here and I don't have to do anything. Because it seems like every minute of our time is planned out with something. We're either running after kids, programs, doing things for church, things we've forgotten about, going to see family. It's hard to fit it all in. And one of the things that I've enjoyed about it as well is seeing everyone's creativity that you guys have been talking about. I've seen new businesses be formed. I've seen people that normally probably wouldn't speak up or speak out or do different things. They're now doing videos for church, and or you're seeing them have different forums and different things of that nature. So it is great just to see everyone be able to tap in to those things we normally just do not have time for. So that, I think that's awesome. It's caused me to do that as well, things I've been putting off, that it's like I have no excuse now. I have the time to do it, so I'm doing that.
In this whole conversation about being authentic, I want to touch on something that's like going to get closer to home, right? Which is the stress factor, right? Everybody in this room is older, right? We are talking, huh? I'm saying y'all old. You heard me? Pull your gray hairs. Everybody pull a gray hair. No, what I'm saying is, and so if I'm 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, I haven't really truly learned how to manage that whole, like, this is an introduction to something that's unfamiliar to me, which is stress. And she talked about having our 3 boys at home. My daughter, who's away in California, but the 3 boys are at home, but they're being told you can't, right? And that is now introducing something that they like. The closest they got to stress was, oh God, this test is coming up and I didn't study. Right? That's stress for them. Or the stress that comes with competition. Like, oh man, look at these cats out here. And so now this is a whole nother stress. They have been introduced to what I call adult stress, right? That adult stress that sets in, that friction from being around one another more than you would like to be around, the lack of space, the having to follow, a specific set of, orders and boundaries being placed, and not having freedom to do as you will. So that's introduced all of this different, levels of stress. The outlook of what's going to be tomorrow has been completely altered for youth and young adults and adults, to the extent that I know many adults who's sitting around like, I just don't know what to do. I don't know how to wrap my head around what's going on. And if adults are dealing with that amount of stress, imagine what our youth are dealing with. And I think all too often we don't admit that we're stressed, that how it affects us mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Guess what? It's okay to be like, what is God doing? That's okay. That natural emotion that you have, it's okay to be angry, and it's okay to want to, it's not good. It's not healthy to want to hit a wall or anything like that. But if it crosses your mind, don't do it. But if it crosses your mind, guess what? That's actually normal.
Well, you can't change it. Whether somebody was to say it's okay to feel a certain way or not, that feelings aren't right or wrong. They just are.
Right.
Our actions are what create, consequences. But our feelings are just, they're usually based on the condition of our mind, which is based on our thoughts, which is based on our core beliefs.
Yeah.
So there's a whole lot to work through within ourselves, and society, or whatever we apply ourselves to, has given us these distractions, to where we have found a way to take our current condition and apply it to these multiple genres of life. And this has been a time where it's like, okay, there's nothing to do, so guess what, you get to just deal with you. And oftentimes, I mean, for me, that's just brought more stress, because I'm like, no, wait a minute, no, I was cool compensating, right? Because I don't know why I have these emotions, right? And it's like, well, guess what, you have them. So it has created, I guess, depending on what condition you're in, it kind of expands itself. I think that's what you talk about youth growing up in a world like this, where they're having to basically see a reaction to people not having control, right? And it's chaotic, which means that before all of this happened, that we were applying stress and projecting our own issues out into the world anyway. So now we get to deal with it. And I mean, for me, I had to go through therapy, and some extreme intense therapy, just to figure out how to deal with the me that I have to face every day, and how I'm projecting that to my family, how I'm putting it out, and then I'm just like, man, I haven't done this. Then I start to look back over the years, and I'm like, what in the world have I been giving people? This like shell of myself with a little bit of relatability, you know. I thought I was pretty authentic until I saw, you know, what I really am. And then you don't really, once you see what you're made up of, that's not enough. You have to figure out where it came from. You have to figure out where it works. You have to figure out how it affects other people. And then you have to figure out what to do about it. And then somewhere in that process, you start to find you. But that wasn't happening pre-COVID.
And that's good. I'm glad that you said that, because a lot of us have coping mechanisms that are already built into our lives. Like, as you stated, society builds in these different mechanisms to help you be distracted from dealing with you, to deal with that self-growth. I mean, for many young youth, it's, you know, sports. You know, you're going to get personal. You're going to learn how to deal with other people in the world through your teammates. And then in competitive play, you're going to learn how to actually compete without having to, you know, be mean and kill anybody. But in all actuality, it deals with only a subset of all of the areas that need to be dealt with within our humanity, within those of us just as human beings. And because we don't get to deal with those things ultimately until we become an adult, then everything comes rushing all at once. And now we got to try to figure it out. And nobody gave us the roadmap to figure it out. We've had all of these detours along the way, and now it's like, oh God, I'm lost. And that's how you feel. And now it's at a rampant pace that you have to figure everything out. And that
lots of resources to get you back to the status quo.
Right. Right.
You know,
right.
Like, okay, you're going off, let me just get you back to this general vague path of life, and not to deal with who we really are.
Exactly. And then we don't talk enough. Like what we're doing right now, right, which is, you say there's the professional help, and I am all for you getting some professional help if the conversation isn't sufficient. Because I know, if I look around, I think you're all of African American descent or African descent of some sort.
Caucasian.
Okay, good. So that being said, there is this stigma that operates within our culture that would say that seeking professional help is, you know, it's weak.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with you. Like, no.
I mean,
Like,
I've even heard it's not biblical.
It's
Mhm.
yeah, right?
Yeah.
So what is counsel? I mean, I don't know what that is.
That's different.
I mean, it's different,
Somehow.
right? It's
That's-
different.
Counseling is in the
Counsel
Bible.
is- yeah.
Right.
Wise counsel.
Wise counsel.
Therapy.
Therapy.
Relying on
no.
somebody
I mean-
else and well, you know.
And
These
so
are
we've
stigmas.
got we got all these stigmas, and it takes away from our ability to actually grow into being the healthy adults that God has called us to be, because we have listened to the world tell us what we should and should not do, and we miss the Father on what He said it is that we need. And personal development. Jesus kept it simple and said, remove the beam of timber from your own eye, and then you'll see clearly how to remove the speck from your brother's eye. Meaning that the speck in his eye is much smaller than the beam of timber in your eye. You got much bigger issues to deal with in and of yourself than before you start trying to fix everybody else. How about you get you right? But we don't ever want to take the time to get us right. And then people tell us there's something wrong with us when we say there's something wrong with me. Right? I'm stressed. I feel, I don't want to go into too many different subjects, okay? Because we're on a time constraint, okay? But the reality of it is we have life hit us. And some of us want to check out. Man, you talked about a thing where I brought up Paul. I'm like, Paul, who is attributed for writing 2/3 of the New Testament of the Bible that we read as the source of our faith. This dude was like, man, I'm trying to be in heaven with you, Lord. Take me out this place. God has to tell him, my grace is sufficient, right? That you are going to be fine. That nothing that's hitting your life is new to man, okay? I've given you everything that you need to be able to come through it. But it doesn't change the fact that that's where his mind went.
Yeah, because we're always looking for the happily ever after of life. I mean, in every prospect, I mean, you guys just had a wedding. It's like, what goes into putting together this celebratory, you know, supposed expression of joy for a union that's supposed to last forever? A lot of times it goes a lot of hard work and stress, you know what I mean, concerns goes into the planning process to give other people a moment to celebrate. And it's just like, or I could just call up everybody and say, like, give me some stuff and come over. You know what I mean? But there's an expectation.
Right.
There is an expectation
Big
and a
expectation.
desire. So it's not a bad thing to want, but it comes with, like, this whole thing. Like, there's a pressure. If it doesn't turn out well, then what? Does that mean your marriage failed?
Right.
No, it just
Right.
means that, you know,
You're poor event planners.
or COVID.
Or COVID.
You know what I mean?
Right.
That's how we got through it, honestly, because I would always say whether there's one person or 150, we still get married. So
Right.
Right.
That's right.
it doesn't change anything.
And it's a blessing to have that perspective. You know what I mean? I wouldn't classify that as the norm. You know what I mean? It's a whole thing. There's a lot of self-value and you know, just things that we put on ourselves. We're very self-critical
Yeah.
in these environments, and it's like, man, we spend so much time criticizing ourselves that we can't help ourselves.
Yeah.
We spend so much time criticizing other people that when they show, you know, that I have a problem or something, was like, we're upset with people for having problems. Like, man, what's wrong with you? You know, get right.
Right.
Like who? Like you?
Right.
Yeah.
Why don't you show me how to get there then?
Right.
Oh, you ain't got no answers? Okay, so I'm
Right.
stuck.
I can help you get there.
Yeah.
I can't help myself.
You worry about you.
Hey, Jesus,
I'm trying
if
to
you
help.
really are God, get yourself off the cross then.
I'm trying to help you get better for you.
Right.
Don't worry about me.
Yeah.
I'm good. What?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
how does this work?
Right.
I think youth are hip. Go ahead.
And I was going to say, but where does all that stem from, too? You know, it's all, when you think about it in the end and you sit back, we become all of these different experiences. You know, when we're a kid, we're learning from our parents and our family, and we're becoming a certain way. And then you get to a certain point where you're now experiencing different things from the world, which is now putting another twist on top of who you are and what you feel about different things. and it just continues to grow. Because whether you're from a kid and you're going to school and you're experiencing different things, now you put in college, maybe armed forces, maybe you're just, working every day. You take all those different experiences, and every single experience shapes the person that you are. But at the same time, a lot of, what's deep within us is things that we've learned when we were a child.
Yeah.
Whether it's good, bad, or indifferent.
It's there.
It's there. And you go back and you try to think of, why do I act this way, or what's going on? An example we had is that the kids come in whistling. I hate for them to whistle in the house. And so they would whistle, and I say, stop whistling. And Deshon asked me one day, he said, babe, what is it about whistling? And I stopped and I said, I don't know, but my grandmother said you do not whistle in the house. That was my thing, because she said you don't do it.
And you felt like it was.
And, back then they didn't give you an explanation
no.
for anything. It was because I said so.
And it's everybody. It's for everybody. You don't whistle in the house. Like, just my house.
And that's what it was. You just
Nobody
didn't
whistles.
do it. And so it was like, and it still drives me crazy. I think Aaron came in the other day, and before I could say anything, I think I heard you say something to him, and I was just like, oh, that whistling, But it's just different things that are set deep within us from things that we learn. I had a girlfriend of mine who said that she's married now, but she said at first she was thinking that she would never ever get married. Why? Because none of her family members and things like that ever got married. So she was thinking that she would never get married. That, this was her norm. I had another young lady who said that they got married, and the first time her and her husband got into an argument, she thought their marriage was over. Why? Because she had never ever heard her parents get into an argument. Never. And when she went back to her parents, they were like, yeah, you guys just didn't hear it. Right. But we form all these different things or opinions or what have you, just based off of, you get that foundation from when you're a kid and what you learn, and then all these other things help you form other opinions, and you never find yourself in the middle of that. I'm a part of you, and a part of you, and a part of you, and all these different things, and now I've become this person that I don't even know anymore. But like you said, you have to go back and get to the root of some of those different things in order to be free from these different things that you're going through. I know I went through a divorce, and I went through counseling, and thank God I went through counseling, because I was hurt. I was hurt and was dealing with a lot of different things, but had I not done that, where would I be today? I might be angry and bitter and and now I'm putting that on someone else, So we have to get to the root of some of these different things, and counseling, it does have a counseling, therapy, whatever you want to call it, especially in an African American community.
Yeah.
We are against that. If you went through that, like you said, something's wrong with you. You got troubles. What's going on with that? But we have to look at you weak. All kinds of different things, when it's really helping you address different issues so that you can be that better you in the end.
It gave me a thought, while you were talking. I think about young adults, if you will, or just, about to enter into young adults, so late teenagers. And I think one thing that's happened with the pandemic is it kind of shut off that excitement, the plans for the future, to get away from the family structure. Because a lot of what we see in early adulthood is rebellion. And parents a lot of times are just like flabbergasted, like, why is my child, I raised them in this way to do these things. Why are they? Because
they lost their mind.
Because of what they learned from you. And there's certain things that we taught, you taught to them that it was for you. It wasn't for them. I'm not talking about just preparing people for the world. I'm talking about the things that we learn. There's some kid out there who was really looking forward to leaving and going to college so he could show off all his whistling skills.
That's right.
But now
that he could never use in the household.
That's like,
he was
whistle
planning
I want to
on
now.
leaving and going to his dorm and binge watching Andy Griffith's show because they whistle in the intro. And
That's
now
right.
you can't do that for the foreseeable future because, you know, colleges are shut down and they got to stay right in the same environment
Yeah.
that does not validate them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I can't imagine what that would be like for a, you know, 16, 17, 18-year-old, you know, going into senior year or just graduating, getting into college, looking for like, oh man, I heard about how you can get out here and kind of figure it out. And it's like, ain't nothing going on no more.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be devastating.
Mm-hmm.
And it also causes us to have to be very intentional about getting the help we need so that we can make sure that other people are getting the help that they need.
Absolutely.
Well, we don't have that much time left. And so I really want to give everybody the opportunity to wrap up this discussion with a word of encouragement to the youth, young adults that are out there, adults even, you know, seasoned, because I believe people need it at all levels. My heart right now is really going out to the youth, as you were just talking about, because of that, just that outlook. You know, they've had this picture painted for so long. You're striving, get through 10th grade, do what you need to do, and then it's like, okay, then there's all this going on. And it's not just COVID, it is the politics that are going on in our society. It is the injustice from a social standpoint that takes place in our society, and that covers everything from, you know, black lives who that matter, right? But then all lives that matter. Kids that are being trafficked throughout, you know, the U.S. Kids that are being held in cages on the border in the country that we say is the greatest country on earth. And then you
Anybody who's being oppressed.
Right.
That's
Anybody
right.
who's been oppressed. And then you look overseas and you're like, even if you had the thought, I'm going overseas, you're like, oh God, it's bad over there too. You don't know where to go. And you're like, okay, I'm stuck. And that outlook can be a lot to try to, it can force you to say, why try? And I feel like a lot of our youth may be in that place where they're like, what am I doing this for? Especially my kids that are going into their senior year, because the outlook seems somewhat bleak because of the picture that's being painted, especially in the media. But a word of encouragement, because sometimes, you know, we need wiser heads to prevail in this particular place that we're in, and it needs to be constantly fed to our youth so that they understand that, you know, look, there is light on the other side of this. So just, you know, your own piece of a word of encouragement as we get ready to check out, and hopefully my camera skills don't mess up, but we'll have the audio at least. No, I'm just joking. I will make sure the camera's back up. But yeah, just let's take the last little bit of time and word of encouragement. I'm gonna start this way and work around. It did it. It did it right on cue. Are you serious?
Now this gives me more time.
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry,
Yo.
folks.
Yo.
What has happened is I had to change it, man. I had to change it, and I forgot to set the setting right on the camera.
You almost did it, man.
Almost. We were almost there.
You thought
I'm
about
sorry.
all the
I think
things.
it does it like every half an hour or something like that. If that tells you how long we've been talking. All right. Sorry, folks. We're back in 3, 2, and yeah. Okay. Sorry. One other thing. I know y'all like this janky production. I'm sorry. It'll be better. I told you I'm new at this stuff. I'm just doing the best I can, man. All right, go ahead. Lorian.
I would say my message would be to both parents and to the youth, and that is to be encouraged, to be vigilant about those crucial conversations. Talk to one another. Talk about what's going on. Talk about what you see on TV. Talk about what's going on in the world, because it's a lot. 2020 has hit us with so much that keeping it all bottled inside is not going to do any good. So I would say parents, sit down with your children and have those conversations. If you don't know, say you don't know. Be honest and say you don't know. But have those conversations, because I think we can ease some of the anxiety and things like that that are going on with our kids, and be honest. Be honest. From an adult perspective, they're having anxiety, but so are we. And just looking out and seeing what's going on and how we're dealing with it. And then I would also say during this time, have fun. You know, have fun with one another. We are quarantined, we're having to stay at home, but that doesn't mean we can't have fun. Have more family time and spend time together and do different things and get to know one another again. We have so many distractions, the video games and television and work and all these different things. This is allowing us to come together and spend more quality time with one another and get to know one another again. So I think that is very important. And then don't lose focus. You're still having, school isn't out. They're not saying that they're going to give you A's and keep you moving. You still have to stay focused and get into your studies, get into your word, and continue to move forward, because once things do lift, you still have to be able to go on. So you can't take a pause and think that this is vacation time. You still have to plan, you still have to do the things that you want to do. And one of the things that our pastor, Pastor Tyus Nez, said to us in a meeting this weekend is that each one of us is important. And we're here because we have a special piece that's needed in this world today. So, you know, while we're thinking about checking out and not doing different things or whatever, if you don't do you, if you don't be you and you aren't your best self, who's missing out on what it is that you have to offer? Because you're a crucial piece of this puzzle of this whole world. So you are valuable, you're a benefit, you are important. So make sure that we start instilling that back down deep inside of us and see our worth so that we can move forward.
That's very good.
She took what I was going to say.
What she said. Boom.
Because during our wedding, Pastor Tyus had said something about children. He said that God puts a solution on the earth whenever you're born. So my encouragement is to
Procreate.
No, not at all.
I don't know.
Sound like where he was going to be.
I mean, you know, I was like, we need some more kids.
And multiply.
Hashtag quarantine baby.
What I'm trying to say is, you are a solution. So what she said.
Yeah.
Whatever you got in you, that talent that you got in you, don't bury it. Use this time that we have to enhance it and be a solution to someone else, because you don't live for yourself. So stay focused and do what you gotta do.
I like that, man.
Okay. I would have to say, just to the youth, make sure your cup is full. Like, before you maybe just try to start helping other people or just pouring into other people, just make sure you're good first. Like, make sure you wake up, you get what you need, that your cup is pretty much full. Because if you're just going and giving, eventually you're gonna get,
Right.
exactly, you're gonna get drained. So I just encourage you guys to just stay focused, and like Miss Lorian said, be ahead of the game. Like, yes, you may not be in a classroom setting or just, surrounded with people, but just stay ahead of the game, just plan ahead, and, just keep trusting in God, and just keep praying and stay strong in the Lord. That's good.
I agree with what everyone has said. From my standpoint, what I would say to parents and students is to be kind to yourself. Because we live in this age where now all we have to do is either be on our social media accounts or to be or to watch TV, and we're seeing all of these TikToks or Instagrams of how people are just living and doing these exponential amount of things within a day, and we see it's all pretty, and then you can kind of get down upon yourself when it's like, oh, I didn't do that, or I haven't done this, or I could have done that, or no, be kind to yourself. What you've done is enough. You don't have to be like someone else, and everything that you see is not as it's painted. For my students, I'm a teacher. We understand. We get it. Like, yes, do your work. We're still grading it, but if you didn't get 100 pages read, you got 50, that was enough. Do something, but some days you're going to be working at 120%. Other days you're going to be at 100, and other days you're going to be at 50, and that's okay. Don't let people, teachers, don't let anyone make it feel like you're not doing your best. Parents, some days you're going to be able to help your child with everything that they're doing. Some days you're not. It's okay to reach out for help. It's okay to say, I just don't know. It's okay to say, you know what, I'll talk to your teacher later, and we're going to close that computer today. Because it's, for me personally, it's not the healthiest thing to even be on the computers all day, but that's what we're doing to keep our society moving forward. But everything that you're doing is enough.
I like it.
That's very powerful.
I think to piggyback off of everything that everyone said so far, in the midst of the pandemic, in the midst of virtual school, virtual learning, teaching, parenting, just whatever stage of life we are in, it's okay to not be okay. And it's okay to admit that. And to really feel those feelings. And I know we talked about the Black community and all of the stigmas around getting help and counsel. I know another thing that we like to tell people is don't tell your business. Like, don't put it out there. Don't suffer in silence. It's okay to talk, to have the dialogue, and if it's not enough, just like Deshon said, it's okay to get help, professional help. There are nonprofit organizations. A lot of people think you have to have abundance of money to get help, and you don't. There are a lot of resources out there that you can find on Google that would be happy to service you, just to make sure you're mentally well and you're able to function and get past things. Whatever hard circumstance you may be in or you feel like you're in, it will be okay, and we'll all get through it.
Nice.
That's a lot of good chili. I would say, to everybody's point, when it comes down to where we are now, I think isolation is a very dangerous thing. And if we're not careful, we can suffer in silence and suffer alone. My biggest concern for people in general, young and older, and particularly in the church, is I was talking to Deshon about it last night. I'm concerned about the suicide rate